And so far, his history, as long as it concerns how he had grown over time, is very qualitative and embodied with a lot of experience. So, in order not to be on the one hand side, seemingly like this conversation is trying to favor anybody, truthfully, Kwankwaso is out there and is ready for this.
I think I totally agree with you on that. But let's go to look at his earlier career because this is getting interesting. I say it's getting interesting because now you're talking about someone like, okay, this man, he has it. You know, this is good and all that. So, well, let's look at his early career. Now, Kwankwaso joined the Kano State Water Resources and Engineering Construction Agency of the government of Kano State in 1975. He served there for 17 years in various capacity and rose through the ranks to become the principal water engineer. In 1982, Kwankwaso made his entry into politics on the platform of the Social Democratic Party, SDP. He was a member of the People's Front faction of the SDP led by General Shehu Yar'Adua and other popular politicians such as his former boss, Senator Magaji Abdullahi, Baba Gana Kingibe, Atiku Abubakar, Bola Tinubu, Tony Aneni, Chuba Okadibu, Abdullahi Aliyu, Sumaila, Abubakar, Aliyu Sumaila, Abubakar Koko, and Lamidu Adedibo, amongst others. Now, before I come back to you, let's look at his conquest into politics. Now, in 1992, Kwankwaso was elected as a member of the House of Representatives, representing Madobi Federal Constituency. His subsequent election as Deputy Speaker in the House brought him to the limelight of national politics. During the 1995 Constitutional Conference, Kwankwaso was elected as one of the delegates from Kano. And as a member of the People's Democratic Party movement led by Yar'Adua, he later joined the Democratic Party of Nigeria, DPN, in the political transition program of General Sani Abacha. Now, Kwankwaso joined the PDP in 1998 under the platform of the People's Democratic Party movement in Kano, led by Mala Musa Gwadabe, Senator Hamisu Musa, and Alhaji Abdullahi Aliyu Sumaila. In 1999, he contested the PDP primaries alongside Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, Muktari Zimiti, Alhaji Kabiru Rabiu. The Sansi PSP were behind the candidature of Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, but they lost to Kwankwaso in the primaries first term. Now, they are looking at the first part of this, but before we go back to his first term, there are a lot of, we talked about his education. You could see the precedent. You could see, okay, this one was yes, you know, it was cool. There was nothing like you having to rigor through your head.
Yes,
When did he do this? When did he? Now, we're looking at his career precedent right now. You could also see that projection, that due process. Names, you have names, you have individuals. I don't know, I think this is what a presidential political profile should look like, and not just something we could say, okay, we don't have anything to tell about a certain point of your life, and bam, we don't know anything, and then suddenly you're a presidential candidate.
but that's true. Having been that Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso has accentuated himself this much, we'll see that from the days when Nigeria's democracy was still very nascent, of course, even though it seems premature at this extent for the lack of words, Rabi Musa Kwankwaso has always been a major player. Through the SDN, he's worked with the likes of Tinubu, works with the likes of Lamido, and so on and so on. So you can see that his experiences in the political arena is not in any way diminishing, rather it is consolidating. So if it comes to talking about the 2023 general election, yes, he has a stake. Yes, he knows the history and the landscape of the Nigerian politics. And above all, he controls a certain number of experience, or a number of years of experience in the game. So we're not saying, oh, it's a new waters for him. He's already been there. Correct. He's already been through the thick and thin of the whole system. So I think Kwankwaso is another candidate yet that fits the shoes of running for the presidency of Nigeria.
I can't agree with you more, and so it feels good. Like, you know, sometimes as a Nigerian, you're looking at these people like, who are these people? Where are they coming from? Why do you even want to be president? But you can see that this man has a trajectory of consistency, growth, like you rightly pointed out. I'm going this way. This is where I'm going to. This is how it's going. The precedent so far is quite interesting. And honestly, we should be able to present Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso as a presidential candidate anywhere. But let's go to his for the first time, his early first time
The
as
office.
an elected official in government. Now, Kwankwaso was elected for his first time as the governor of Kano State from 29th May 1999 to 29th May 2003. His first tenure as the governor of Kano State was very eventful because of several other groups who were opposed to his high-handed governorship and his attempt to supporting Yoruba President Olusegun Obasanjo. In 2003, he lost re-election to his rival, Malam Ibrahim Shekarau. But in second term, Kwankwaso was then, after the failure, re-elected a second term in office as governor of Kano State from 29 May 2011 to 29 May 2015. During this time, he set out to rejig the political structure of Kwankwasia. I was waiting for that. Building roads, hospitals, and schools, and sending residents to study abroad. In August 2013, Kwankwaso was among seven serving governors who formed the G7 faction within the People's Democratic Party in November 2013. Kwankwaso, alongside 5 members of the G7, defected to the new opposition party, the All Progressive Congress. Of course, we are very familiar with the whole story.
That's
Right
true.
now, in June 2014, Kwankwaso was at loggerheads with long-time Emir of Kano, Ado Bayero, over his appointment of Waziri Vizier of the Kano Emirates Council. On 6 June 2014, Ado Bayero died, and a succession crisis loomed amongst the royals. On 8 June 2014, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi suspended Central Bank Governor and Dan Marjan, Kano, son of Emir Marje, emerged as a new Emir of Kano. His accession led to the widespread protests from supporters of Sanusi Ado Bayero, son of the late Emir and Chiroman Kano, Crown Prince of Kano, and allegations that Kwankwaso supported Sanusi because of the 2015 presidential election. 2015 presidential campaign in October 2014, Kwankwaso used his large political following in Kano to contest the APC presidential primaries. This is a fact. There is no gainsaying with this. Now, the presidential primary results held in Lagos were Muhammad Buhari with 3,430 votes, Kwankwaso with 974 votes, Atiku Abubakar with 954 votes, Rochas Okorocha with 400 votes, and Sam Mda Isaiah with late Sam Mda Isaiah with 10 votes. Now, coming in second, Kwankwaso endorsed the winner, Muhammad Buhari. I'm coming to you. Hold on. I'm enjoying this so much tonight. So when you look at all the issues surrounding Kwankwaso, I know there are controversies, and I know you can't wait to get to that. But let's look at this man, Kwankwaso. The name alone has a sound to it, has a tone to it. And when you begin to talk about the Kwankwasia, the movements that today has become a journey that no one can really say they can easily penetrate, because I don't even know, Ganduje couldn't do that even as a governor for approximately 8 years. He couldn't even penetrate the Kwankwasia movement. This man has become not just a force, but a political icon to reckon with. A lot of people may not agree, but have you seen the Kwankwasia movement when he goes to any political event? Have you seen the Kwankwasia movement? Have you seen the power that this man holds?
The Kwankwasia movement is enormous. You can't fathom how heavy it is. You see it being pronounced in the different statements and the different moves Kwankwaso has been making of recent. Yes, when he was the governor for, I think, 2 terms or thereabout in Kano State, he did quite a lot in that state. And that alone helped him rather to establish a stand in the state. Let's not forget that many parts in the north operate with the caliphate system and the whole kingship and the rest of that. Even in the midst of this, the Kwankwaso we are having to x-ray now still found a way to penetrate into the system and own a stake, such that even the leaders till date grant him maximum respect. Now, I would say almost doesn't cut it, but he has been there almost. Looking at the fact that he was defeated by President Muhammadu Buhari in the presidential polls, and he even had the privilege of announcing Buhari the winner. So he has been there almost. The question right now is, can he come close again, or would he be able to hold the mantle this time around?
Now, I don't know. I'm not his spokesperson. I'm not in position to answer that. But from the facts that we have read out tonight about Kwankwaso, I want to go back again to his foundation. Clearly, he's got that strong foundation. His grandfather was educated. His parents were educated. So it's no wonder that even as a Fulani man, he got a good education. And of course, the average Fulani people are highly educated. Let's not even take that away. And that's also one reason when we hear in the news people say Fulani herdsmen, I find it very derogatory, because it's like, as a result of maybe some of a religious fanaticism or all kinds of ugly images that's been painted about certain class of individuals, and then because, okay, you know, that Fulani headers are usually, you know, they are Normans, yes, actually, not really that they are Fulanis.
Pastoralists.
Yeah, exactly. So when you have such a situation, you don't label all of them Fulani heads. But this is another example that, and if funny enough, a lot of people may not even know that he's Fulani. Kwankwaso is a full-blooded Fulani man. And he's highly educated. There is no doubt about that. And this is another example. When people also paint a picture of Northerners, when we in the down south conclude that they are just about herders, wheelbarrow pushers, shoe menders, security, and all that. These people actually have proper education. And there's something else I saw about when we were looking at his profile. Consistency. He went as far as getting master's degree in water, a PhD, doctorate degree in water management. That's some level of consistency that don't come by easily. With his level of exposure, he could have diverted into maybe going into petroleum, and what was this stock in trade for them at the point. Unlike what we have ICT and all that today. He didn't do that. He was consistent, went for it, and even came back, gave 17 years of his life in the civil service. I think that's some level of consistency that one needs to look at Kwankwaso and say, this man has got something in him. If we can look beyond our region, look beyond our states and all that, this is someone who can look at it, this man has got something in him. There's something about this character that is beyond the red cap movement,
you know,
the Kwankwaso movement.
Listening to you, I almost had nod out my head because you just seem to be in tandem with everything that could describe Kwankwaso and his consistency. Let us not forget that in an egalitarian society like Nigeria, if anyone is aspiring, especially for the greatest office of the land, one of the yardstick that you can use to judge them is how much and how well they have been able to contribute to the well-being of that nation.
Yeah.
Now, looking at the fact that this particular individual had actually been in service, he has risen through the ranks and file. I can't ascertain the exact level he stopped, maybe level 9 and the rest of that. But he has contributed a reasonable part of his life to the country.
And so to quickly preempt you, please hold your thought. He's not just contributing. He served as a professional.
Okay.
He became a water engineer. He served as a core professional. So Kwankwaso wasn't just in the Ministry of Water Resources as an Hausa man, I have connection. No. He was there as a professional who knew his onion when it comes to water management and all there is about water. So go ahead, please.
Yes. So when we x-ray some of these qualities, we would now find it very interesting that, oh, this person can actually do something. But however, where I find it disappointing sometimes is, despite all the aggregated degrees, aggregated years of knowledge, if such persons, manage to get their way into power, the reverse might be the case. However, without trying to play down on how much he has achieved, it's quite commendable that an individual would have done so much and so well for himself. Because, like you rightly pointed out, in today's society and what we're witnessing within the contemporary of the moment, many people don't believe that the average northerner or those from the Fulani extraction can actually achieve or be anything. And that is why sometimes it's very gory when you see pictures of them. They classify most of them as barrow pushers, gate persons, security persons, and even some other tribe and the rest of that. It's very insulting. Now, not forgetting one thing you said, the issue of headers.
Yeah.
Saying Fulani herdsmen. I think that's a problem the media has to deal with, because they are in charge of naming and referencing
It's
people.
a wrong classification,
Exactly.
and that we really need to do better.
Exactly.
We need to do better.
So if we begin to frame this thing in the right perspective, we then be able to sift between the chaff and the main product. Because characters like Kwankwaso detach him from all his political strides. He is an exemplary leader to follow.
You can say that with all facts and figures clearly stated. We are looking at the man Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, and from all indication, from all we have been able to extray about him on 2023 election tonight, it's clear that this man has what it takes to stand heads and shoulders amongst his equals in the to become Nigeria's president. Oh, heads and shoulders even above those we have given presidential tickets in some of the leading parties in the country. Heads and shoulders above those who are sitting in the office of the CGN today, who cannot account for their education, who can't give a proper, account of when they started going to school and all that. But that's not what we're doing tonight. Our focus on tonight is to meet the man, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. But like every human, we cannot do this without looking at the controversies around Musa Kwankwaso. We'll be right back after the break.
The people, the candidates, the party, the campaigns. What really makes an election year? Enough of the rhetorics. It's time for issue-based politics. 2023 elections. Who are the candidates? What do you know about them? Take a seat, relax, and join us for the 2023 elections on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes, DTH, Channel 194, or ATN Live on Google Play Store and all our social media platforms. Twitter is at Atlantic TV Net. Facebook and YouTube is at Atlantic Television Network. On Instagram is at Atlantic TV Network. Elections 2023 from Mondays to Fridays at 8 p.m. Election 2023. We the people have a stake.
Elections 2023. Remember, we are still discussing the man Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, who is running on the platform of the New Nigeria People's Party. And on election 2023, we have a say here that the people have a stake. Now let us look around the controversies that is surrounding the man Musa Kwankwaso. Now, Musa Kwankwaso, on 9th of March 2004, the chief of Kano State swore in the 6-member commission of inquiry, which was headed by Honorable Justice Ahmed Badamasi as chairman, to inquire into the activities of Kwankwaso. The commission commenced sitting on 19th March 2004 and made its report available, and for the government to issue the white paper by November 2004, when he was indicted. In 2015, the concerned Kano State Workers and Pensioners Group filed a petition to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, claiming that Kwankwaso had broken the Kano State Pension and Gratuity Law of 2007 right before leaving office early in 2015. According to the group, Kwankwaso had directed that pensions remittances be used for housing development, but supposedly intervened in a housing project to allocate houses to his associate. Ultimately, the housing allocation and alleged misappropriation of funds reached around 100 billion naira, according to the concerned Kano State Workers and Pensioners Group. Also, on July 2nd, 2015, Justice Muhammad Yahya of the Kano State High Court had restrained the EFCC from arresting or restraining Kwankwaso in its intervention for alleged misappropriation of 10 billion naira pension funds while serving as Kano State Governor. But 2 weeks later, on 16th of July 2015, the same year, the judge of Kano in High Court void his earlier order and granted the EFCC a judgment to enable the Commission to investigate, arrest, and prosecute Kwankwaso. Justice Mohammed Yahya also fined Kwankwaso 50,000 naira for time wasting. Later in 2016, the EFCC denied and refuted claims of any pending corruption cases and persecution against Kwankwaso. Even Kwankwaso himself has strongly denied and rejected any corruption allegation against him, describing it as a mere political blackmail, mischievous, untrue, which is sponsored by his enemies and political rivals to tarnish his image and reputation. Now also, Kwankwaso had filed a suit in court through his lawyer seeking compensation for tarnishing of his image. Also in 2021, September, investigations showed that the EFCC had invited Kwankwaso for questioning earlier that month on the alleged pension funds misappropriation from 2015. Kwankwaso initially ignored the commission before turning himself in on 16th October for questioning. There is a lot to take away from this, Vivian. You can see that it's from one controversy to the other, and this was still within and brief period of after he had served as the governor of Kano State. What can you pick from this particular issue, talking about how the pensioners are dragged into court, how he had been alleged to misappropriate fund, and how housing had been, housing issues had been called to stop, yet he allocates houses to his associates?
And of course, the pension group, advocate group, saying that he broke the pension law in the state. But in all that you read about in the first part of issues where we're looking at his controversies surrounding Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, one thing I noticed, EFC, first of all, a judge said, oh, you can't do this, and then he now gave a ruling, the same judge on the same issue. You gave a ruling against it, later you came back to agree, judicial system. Now let's look at the institution called EFCC. EFCC, oh, you were after this man and suddenly you're not after him. You claim that nothing like that happened. And then he went to court to say, oh, he wants to clear his name because mischief makers are trying to, smear tarnish his reputation, as the case may be. One thing, I wouldn't even, this is not me being biased. I mean, I'm not from the north, or this is not a paid ad. This is just us doing what we do as Atlantic Television Network, providing opportunity for the people to hold a stake. And if we must do that, we must fulfill our role by bringing you the information as they are. Now, going back to what I was trying to say, what I say here is not about Kwankwaso. It's about institutions, weak institutions, from the judiciary to the EFCC, and this has gone on and on and on for as long as we can remember. This happened some time ago, it's still ongoing today. Now, if a group comes out to say, oh, you misappropriated 10 billion that was meant for pensioners, what the EFCC or the ICPC, for instance, is supposed to do is to investigate. When you investigate, you find out what the situation, you publish the report, you talk about what you investigate. You don't just come out to say, you, a judge, said, oh, this didn't happen, and then suddenly you agree that it happened. And then the EFCC is coming out to say, so it's clearly an issue of weak institutions. And when you have weak institutions, what literally happens is that anyone can take the institution for granted. And that brings us to the point where we say we need to build strong institutions and not strong humans. As a strong man, there was a weak institution. He maximized the porousness or the vulnerability of the EFCC or the judiciary, and that's why he's suing them to clear his name. Nobody talked about the advocacy group, the pension advocacy group, who was saying, no, this is not how these things should be, this is how it should be. But again, so I wouldn't say it's about Kwankwaso, okay? If someone decides to throw money around because they don't know how to manage their funds, a hungry man comes across the money, picks it up. So am I going to blame the hungry man, or am I going to blame the man who was lazy about, keeping his finances the way it should be? So that's what it is for me. So this is another point that one of the major challenges we've had as a nation, the major challenge of weak institutions, and that's why we are still where we are today.
Don't forget that earlier in the conversation today, we had the opportunity to check one of the items in the news concerning how the Supreme Court has been declared lenient to some extent,
Yeah.
and how dispensation of justice is beginning to withdraw 10,000 steps backward. That is exactly the same case, which means it goes to tell us that it did not begin today. Because just to borrow words, it's like a case of approbating and reapprobating. The judge had declared once that he was guilty, and he went back again to cancel or to rescind on his order.
Yeah.
So these are the cases where, like you said, we have a lot of strong men, yet weak institutions. The normal thing that would have been done is for the case to be filed, for further investigation to be carried out, irrespective of the fact that we are not talking about Tinubu when we looked at his issue earlier, regarding money misappropriation and the rest of that. It is a certificate case, yet they are pursuing it in court today. So why is it that a case of misappropriation of a fund that was gotten from taxpayers' money and would have even allegedly again been used for their own good would not be able to, it will become difficult to follow it up? And that is why many people see the agencies like EFCC as a lapdog
to the government. And in addition to that, if you look at the history of Musa Kwankwaso, his need to clean his image, to ensure that he goes to court, so I need a judgment on this. It again shows you how advanced these people are. The people would deride and call them Fulani people, Hausa people. It shows you how advanced they are. Here, these guys don't care about going to courts, clearing their reputation. Why don't they care? Why don't they care about that? Because they feel, oh, okay, for instance, we talked about Tinubu, for instance. You knew you had a certificate issue since 1999. You didn't bother to do anything about it. Why? It doesn't matter. You can always find your way around the system. But again, good thing that there are people who do care about that. But let's quickly go to our last story for tonight.
All right, so you recall that Kwankwaso had been immersed in several different stories of recent, and this is still regarding his 2023 presidency ambition. Now, NPP Kwankwaso believes that Igbos are political foreigners. The national chairman of the new Nigerian People's Party, NPP, Professor Rufai Ahmed Al-Khali, has explained the party's presidential candidate, Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, did not denigrate the Igbos. Al-Khali said Kwankwaso believed that the Southeast are foreigners in the country's political sphere. Al-Khali's reaction comes on the heels of recent comments by the former Kano State governor that the Southeast was good in business but at the bottom of Nigeria's political ladder. Earlier, Kwankwaso had made the remark in Gombe State while noting that why he can't be the running mate of the Labour Party LP presidential candidate Peter Obi. In a statement he issued, Al-Khali said Kwankwaso, while inaugurating the Gombe executive, was quoted as having said Southeast, which is the Igbo people, are good in business but at the bottom of politics in Nigeria. He, Al-Khali, further said NPP wished to categorically state that the statement was situated out of context, as the NPP presidential candidate has always emphasized that Igbos were foreigners in the fight for the nation's struggle for independence and had produced the first president of the country in the person of late Nnamdi Azikiwe. What an argument to go there with, Vivian. Just a twist for me. It's a very big twist.
But I think whoever the PR person is made a good attempt at doing, some form of a good job. But you see, there is something about PR, and I usually tell people, when you are doing PR for someone, you need to clearly consider not just your clients, not just his brand. Maybe if you own an organization, like in this case NNPP, you also need to consider those who are listening. What are you going to say? Don't just sit in your head and say, well, I will tell them Rabi Musa Kwankwaso they never denigrated the Igbos, and of course when I say that, I'm also going to point out that he doesn't have any history of such. But you see, words are what they are. If a political stronghold like Kwankwaso cannot manage his words, then that is an Achilles heel that he really needs to watch out for. You don't open your mouth and make such statements. You don't denigrate another. You can say, okay, Peter Obi is a boy. He's a small boy in politics. What does he know? You can say things like that. But you don't go on classifying a whole tribe as people who don't deserve to be voted for, or who don't deserve the presidency because according to you, they are good in business. So he said, Kwankwaso said what he said. There is no form of a covering that can make this work. And if we had had Kwankwaso himself coming out to say, Nigerians, I understand how this came across, but the intention wasn't passed across, couldn't come across the way my words did. This is actually what I was trying to say. Oh, there are issues in the Southeast right now. Let's try to see how we can fix that issue, because having anyone now come out, IPOP, for instance, that represents a large number of the Igbos, are going to say, we don't want Nigeria, and they're going to mess it up. So why don't you give me the opportunity to let me go alongside your son, Peter Obi, and let's see how we can fix the country. And afterwards, trust me, this is what I'm going to do with the Southeast. This is what I'm going to do with the Southeast. And then we can now come together as a team. When we have fixed it, I want to hand over to, that is a better emotional,
approach.
what my boss would call emotional blackmail. That is a better way to blackmail someone emotionally. And not just for you to come out to say, he didn't mean what he said. But again, Kwankwaso said what he said, and we heard what we heard.
One thing I found as a flaw in all of this PR stunt is when you're spinning a story, just like you said, you consider the peculiarity of the people you're dealing with.
They are the key stakeholder
Exactly.
in every PR tool.
Exactly.
Every PR, anything that it has to do with PR, the people, the receivers, they are the one who control the narrative. What they hear, how they feel, is a very crucial element. Yes.
You see, Nigerians have grown beyond a certain level of mediocrity. You can't tell the person that, you see, even the biblical injunction says that when words are out there, it's hard to retract them. Especially when somebody represented physically had to say it. If this was done in a written letter, in a letter or any written published format, would have said, okay, maybe it was a mistake, it was a typo. But this is somebody who in his complete and right senses had this to say. Now, be that as it may, we are not de-associating the fact that it is only in Nigeria that people use propaganda. In other countries, propaganda is allowed as a technical tool of politicking.
Yes.
However, the most important part of it is approach. Of course, if you begin to highlight and try to remove the different hierarchy propaganda for it, you have areas like white lie, you have the gray lie, and you have the different instruments with which you can use
Include
them.
alternative truth.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because that's a modern tool that's a modern tool for a propaganda campaign these days. Alternative, provide the alternative
Or giving
truth.
half-truth.
Yes.
So, you see, they did not do a good job here by coming out ready to say, oh, Kwankwaso did not say it. Now, what you're trying to say is that Nigerians lack a sense of interpretation, when these are simple words that is easy for anybody to decipher. So, they should make better approach. Kwankwaso as well should try to tame the speed at which his words come out, so that he doesn't end up at the end of the day shooting himself on the foot or putting something in the public space that he wouldn't want to cherish one day. Because, again, anything you say in today's world where we have the internet, immediately can be pulled. That is why most people have come to propound that America does not forgive, neither does it forget. These are because of the technological fast tracking that they've had in that particular system, which we're also experiencing in Nigeria today. Every slight mistake that happens on Twitter or in any space can easily be recorded by anyone. In fact, once you drop something and it's critical, people screenshot it and say it. So you can't say, oh, I'm taking it back. It's already in the public space. So we have to be very careful.
Speaking about being very careful, you said something that Kwankwaso should be careful how he uses his word. But you see, there's something very interesting here. There is something called the pride of place. When the pride of place, I will explain that real quick, is mixed with arrogance and power, it could make a man get drunk without being on alcohol or any form of narcotics. And I'll tell you that the pride of place is saying, I am Kwankwaso, I control the Kwankwasiya movement, I am from Kano. we control the numbers, political permutation-wise, and that we control who will determine who, because you know, now this is the pride of place. Like Leadua would say, power has returned to the aristocrats, which was his very first statement when he was sworn in, when he won the presidential election in 2007. So there's this thing about the Northerners, you know, political Northerners, no matter how good they are, you see that pride of place. We are the North, we control this thing. You know, there's no regard for what is what and what is where and how it should be. So that is what has happened to Kwankwaso. It's a pride of place which has been mixed with the power of money and arrogance. And that's why he has come to where he is. But there's something critical you said, Ade. These politicians don't realize how much Nigerians are exposed to political issues. Even with what the P2B is doing with the young followers, young people, the young demographics who are rooting for him at all costs, what they are doing on Twitter, the average established politician take it for granted. To them, it's no big deal. It's one of, and that is where they are making a mistake. That is where they are getting it wrong. And maybe somehow we hope that they can find a way to remedy the situation before it becomes too late.
Before we go on, I would love to. I don't know how you do this, but I think you should put out a book because because there is so much embodiment that you're bringing to bear. Now, talking about the issue of how the North and most politicians from the North tends to see themselves as supreme. It is something, an error that has been encapsulated into the history of Nigeria. From the early colonial days, some people will say...
I should give you a round of applause there, but
some people will say, when we are talking history, we always mention the colonial fathers, but let's not forget that history is the best teacher and can never be sacked. From when the Northerners and the white people had been sharing power, they had so much conferred too much authority on the North that has now reduced the place of other people in the system. That is why if you go into the if you check in the military system, who are most composed there? The Northerners, without any insult. If you check some other parastatals, they are there. So I think we have to
federal government
rework
parastatals, particularly.
Exactly. We have to rework this equation to suit everybody and to also understand that everyone owns an equal stake. Now, many people will shout that, oh, the North controls a larger population. Are you telling me that the people in the South are stone?
Okay, let me quickly wrap this up with answering this question. This will come as offensive for so many people, but we are Atlantic Television Network and we are here to anchor facts, yeah? Lagos has the numbers. Kano has have the numbers. But let me shock you. Who are those who make up Lagos and Kano states?
I don't know how to say this, but the answer is obvious.
The Southeasterners. Can we look back and say, okay, let's even say, you know, like they did in the time when Jesus was, when the time of Jesus, and they said, everybody go back to your home for census. We need to go.
Okay, be counted.
Yes, let's go back for census. And everybody have to go back home for census. Let's even say, okay, this is how we're going to do the census. And then the law comes up to say, everyone go back to your roots. Let all Easterners live and non-Easterners who are the Southeasterners who are domiciled in the North, let them live there, let them come in Lagos, let them all go home. And let's even go back again and check that political permutation. So when we do these things, and of course, Tinubu and his people are beginning to get the message. That's why you see some of the attack in those areas where you have, you know, where the Southeasterners are domiciled when it comes to election here. But again, it's been an interesting show so far tonight, but I still like me some Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. Against all the odds, against all the excesses, he's human at the end of the day. But these are the characters we need to have in our political space so that we can begin to do the needful where and when necessary. Exactly. It's been an honor sharing the night again with you tonight, Ade. Thank you so much for bringing it to bear. Thank you so much,
Vivian. It's always been a privilege to hold it down here with you because, once again, You are a big knowledge field and an inspiration.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And that's been our show for tonight. But you know how we say, Victor is just hanging in there. He can't wait to chase us away from the studio for the global news. But let's continue this on our social media pages. On Twitter, we are at Atlantic TV Net. On Facebook and YouTube, we are at Atlantic Television Network. Instagram, we are at Atlantic TV Network. Remember that peace and unity are always the pathway to progress. Have yourself a fantastic night.
The people, the candidates, the party, the campaigns. What really makes an election year? Enough of the rhetorics. It's time for issue-based politics. 2023 elections. Who are the candidates? What do you know about them? Take a seat, relax, and join us for the 2023 elections on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes, DTH, Channel 194, or ATN Live on Google Play Store and all our social media platforms. Twitter is at Atlantic TV Net. Facebook and YouTube is at Atlantic Television Network. On Instagram is at Atlantic TV Network. Elections 2023 from Mondays to Fridays at 8 p.m. Election 2023.